Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that, well, pretty much every single homeowner in the humid, subtropical Tampa Bay area really needs to wrap their head around. We are going to completely demystify the mold inspection process. To do that, we've pulled straight from expert source material to finally answer the 11 most common questions people are always asking about mold down here. So let's just start right off the bat with a big one. Is your Tampa Bay home a hidden mold incubator? I know, it sounds a little dramatic, right? But honestly, in Florida, acknowledging this possibility is an absolute necessity, not some luxury. Our climate literally turns our homes into perfect breeding grounds if we aren't paying close attention. To get to the bottom of these 11 questions, we've structured this explainer into a really clear, easy-to-follow roadmap. We'll cover 1, the Tampa Bay mold threat, 2, inspection versus testing, 3, the inspection process, 4, costs and insurance, 5, when to get inspected, and 6, finding a pro. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the Tampa Bay mold threat, and why it's a year-round reality. 70 to 90%. Think about that for a second. That is the average relative humidity we deal with in the Tampa Bay region. When you combine that kind of relentless, sticky humidity with an average of 46 to 50 inches of rain every single year, you've essentially got near-perfect conditions for mold to just thrive. And this brings up a super common misconception. You know, a lot of folks think you need some huge disaster, like a massive hurricane or a burst pipe to get mold. Absolutely not. Honestly, simple AC condensation from your system working overtime, a really slow roof leak, or just poor bathroom ventilation is totally enough. The constant indoor and outdoor temperature differentials make this a persistent threat all year long. Okay, moving right along to section 2, inspection versus testing. What's the actual difference? This is where people get really confused. The crucial difference is this. A mold inspection is a visual and physical evaluation of your home to figure out where moisture and growth are actually happening. Mold testing, on the other hand, is when they collect actual air or surface samples and send them to a lab to identify the specific species of spores. Think of it like this. An inspection finds the problem, testing analyzes it. You can absolutely have an inspection without a test, but testing is usually just an add-on you might need for legal, health, or real estate paperwork. Now, if you're thinking of taking shortcuts, listen up. Those $15 DIY test kits you see at the hardware store, save your money. They're basically just petri dishes that settle in a room. And since mold spores exist literally everywhere on Earth, those plates will almost always come back positive, which just proves mold exists. Not helpful. Professional air sampling uses calibrated pumps to pull a specific volume of air, and then they compare your indoor spore counts directly against outdoor control samples. That's how you know if your indoor levels are dangerously elevated. Let's pull back the curtain for section 3, inside the inspection process, or finding the unseen. When a professional walks in, they aren't just looking for fuzzy green spots on your drywall. They use some pretty high-tech equipment to find what the naked eye completely misses. We're talking moisture meters that flag anything over 17 to 18% moisture in wood as a high-risk zone. They use thermal imaging cameras that actually detect temperature drops behind walls, which points to wet materials. And they even use borescopes to snake a camera inside your wall cavities without tearing your whole house apart. It's like a giant puzzle they're piecing together. So where exactly are they pointing all these gadgets? Usually the exact spots Tampa Bay homeowners completely overlook. Deep inside dark, damp HVAC air handlers, hidden right behind those older fiberglass shower surrounds, sneaking underneath refrigerators and dishwashers from tiny, slow drips, or way up in the attic near roof penetrations. Mold loves to quietly set up camp in these areas for months before you ever even catch a whiff of it. And of course, we can't talk about mold without mentioning the infamous Stachybotrys tartarum. You probably know it by its scary street name, black mold. It gets that bad reputation because it produces mycotoxins, which can trigger severe health reactions. Now, it requires consistently wet conditions to thrive, so in Tampa Bay, it mostly shows up after severe, neglected storm or flood damage. Let me be clear, if a professional finds this, it's a serious situation and you need immediate remediation. All right, let's talk money. Section 4, costs and insurance realities. The financial stakes. Straight to the point, you should expect to pay between $350 and $600 for a standard, thorough residential mold inspection around Tampa Bay. And if the inspector needs to grab lab samples, plan on adding an extra $75 to $150 for each of those. But hey, this next point is absolutely critical. Beware of loss leader inspections advertised for under $100. Seriously, a cheap $75 inspection that completely misses hidden mold in your wall is going to cost you thousands later. More often than not, these dirt-cheap inspections are basically just a foot in the door. It's a tactic for companies to sell you incredibly expensive and sometimes totally unnecessary remediation services. And what about homeowners insurance? Well, the reality in Florida is complicated. Sudden, dramatic issues like a burst pipe, those are usually covered, but there's a catch. They're subject to strict sublimits, meaning they often cap your payout between $5,000 and $25,000. Flooding? Not covered at all unless you have a totally separate national flood insurance policy. And a slow leak or high indoor humidity? Typically, insurance completely excludes that. They classify it as a maintenance issue that you were supposed to prevent. Ouch. So, when do you pull the trigger? Section 5, when to get inspected. Timing is everything. If you have a water event, a leak, a flood, whatever, the clock is ticking loud and fast. Within just 24 hours, mold can actually start colonizing on wet materials. By 48 hours, our lovely Tampa Bay heat causes that growth to accelerate like crazy. And by 72 hours, your critical window to rapidly dry out the property before a major mold outbreak hits is basically closed. You have got to move fast. But what if you haven't had a disaster? Here are the routine guidelines. If your house was built before 1990, or if it's had prior water damage, you should really get it inspected annually. For a standard newer home, every 1 to 2 years is a solid bet. And this is huge. If you're buying a home, always get a dedicated mold inspection before closing. A standard home inspector who is just checking your electrical and your roof is simply not trained or equipped to find hidden mold inside your walls. Bringing it home with Section 6, finding a trustworthy pro and protecting your investment. The absolute golden rule here is avoiding conflicts of interest. You want to hire an independent inspector who only does assessments, someone who doesn't actually sell the remediation services to fix it. Interestingly enough, Florida regulations actually require this. If visible mold is over 10 square feet, the inspection and the remediation legally have to be done by 2 entirely separate companies. It's there to protect you, the consumer. So when you're calling around, you need to treat it like an interview. Use this exact checklist. Ask them, do you hold a Florida DBPR state license? Are you certified by ASCAC or NORMI? Do you send your samples to AIALAP accredited third-party labs? And honestly, maybe the most important one, do you have verifiable local experience right here in Tampa Bay? You absolutely need someone who understands how our very specific, humid regional climate interacts with local construction. I really want to leave you with a thought straight from our source material that just hits the nail on the head. The cost of the inspection is always less than the cost of discovering what you missed. I mean, that perfectly sums up why being proactive is so smart financially. Spending a few $100 right now can quite literally save you tens of thousands of dollars in massive structural repairs down the road. Which brings us to our final question for you today. Are you ready to uncover what's hiding behind your walls? Living in Tampa Bay, mold really isn't a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. I really hope this explainer has empowered you with the exact answers you need for those 11 common questions so you can finally take control of your home's health. Thanks so much for hanging out with me as we explored the science, the real costs, and the timelines of mold inspection. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and whatever you do, keep those indoor humidity levels in check.